Star Wars geek girls. They're geek girls that like Star Wars. And sometimes cry.
Hello, I'm Zoe. Welcome to Star Wars Geek Girl. We have a live show with my dad, who's been on a few times, and a new guest who'll introduce himself.
Hello, everyone. I am Darth Choco. Darth Choco on TikTok, on YouTube, and Darth Choco 7 on Twitter. Um, but I can get a little spicy on Twitter, so follow the other things first.
So we're gonna talk about obviously the awesome finale to the Book of Boba Fett that aired a couple days ago. First, we'll just do spoiler-free thoughts. Like, what do you think of it?
Of the episode, just the final episode overall.
Of the finale, and then the show overall, because I feel like the finale puts everything in perspective.
The finale actually did put a lot of stuff into perspective for me because I was starting to get some like misgivings because of the previous two episodes of like, where are we going with this? Is this all going to wrap up, or are they just really distracting from the single narrative of the show? And this final episode actually went back and tied together all of the loose ends that I was worried about were just going to be left frayed out in the wind. So yeah, I enjoyed it. I had fun. I posted my reaction. I think this final episode gave people exactly what they thought they were going to be getting when the show was announced in the first place. So yeah, that's how I feel.
Oh, am I allowed to talk?
Yeah.
Okay. No, you know what? I wasn't as bad as Choco. And I want us to go into more introduction of Choco just because he's one of my favorite Star Wars TikTokers. So I know as a 50-some-year-old man, I don't even know if I'm allowed to say I have a favorite TikToker, but like I thought it all tied together. Now those episodes, like me and Zoe were talking when we were driving home today, the episodes that like took people out of Boba Fett, like for me, I felt like that was a lot more for like younger fans. Like I teach middle school. Most of them don't care about Boba Fett, but the Mandalorian is like the guy for them. So that kind of brought them back into Boba Fett, where I think it was a little slow for some of them. But I really liked it. I mean, that's my spoiler free. But I guess I spoiled some people that didn't know that the Mandalorian was there.
So I didn't think about it like that, but and it's one of my favorite things is asking like when people got into Star Wars because it's there's so much variety there. But yeah, you're right. Like there's a lot of people that don't really know who Boba Fett is, and if you weren't of a certain age, you probably wouldn't know why he was a big deal. And so being Din probably helped a lot of those people.
And Zoe has the shirt on with the animated Boba Fett from the animated cartoon.
Oh, nice. From the holiday special.
Yeah. What's your spoiler free zone?
I also really loved the last episode. I'll say I was a little bit with you on like the last episodes. I was like, wow, like they set up a lot of stuff here, and there's one episode left, and I think they did it really, really well, wrapping everything up and tying it all together in a way that was satisfying for all the characters. So yeah, I thought it was very well done.
Now can we spoil? Now can we spoil?
Yes, now we can spoil. So if you haven't seen the episode, go watch it and then come back and listen or watch to this. All right.
So Choco, you go first because I've heard some of yours and I like your opinions on these.
Yeah, so if we're going full spoilers, I even posted like I don't really do reactions because I don't react super animated when I watch, but I did with this episode. Like there was a scene where Chrysanthemum tossed the guy up and then shot him in the air, and I like lost it at at that scene. I loved it, but there is some things where I felt that if we're going full spoilers, it was weird that we introduced Cad Bane at the tail end of the previous episode because I think we should have gotten more of him. We should have had a through line to a villain that we were waiting to see Boba triumph over. Um, and but yeah, the episode was just fun. It tied together all those kind of loose ends. I loved how at the end, um, when Boba does beat Cad Bane, it wasn't just a repeat of that unfinished scene. We actually got to see the development. The crux of the story is that Boba has become something beyond what he was before, and Cad Bane was able to beat him as he would have been as a bounty hunter, but not as he became. And I thought that was also an interesting nod to the Bad Batch, where
Yep.
Cad Bane has that whole line about how I've killed so many clones. You just have to figure one out, and like, that's pretty dark, dude. um, uh, yeah. What else is there? I wish we had gotten some more development for Fennec, but seeing her do her assassin thing was just frankly badass. So I enjoyed that a lot as well. Um, Overall for the show, though, I did feel the pacing was off. So what I said in my TikTok earlier was it felt like it was going to be told in chronological order, but like they thought that would be too slow and they'd lose people on the front end, and so they kind of cut it and mixed the first half up to even it out. But that kind of means there's like an episode where the tone shifts for the show. So I'm really curious to see how people who watch it as a binge, not week to week, think about it. I think that would be interesting to hear someone talk about it from that lens. Yeah, those are my overall thoughts.
Yeah, I have a few friends that are probably going to binge it, like that I work with, and I am curious what they think. I like to me, I could have had more Tuscan. They could have made the whole first season just him with the Tuscans, and I would like I really liked what they did with that story part. Um, and as a person who builds costumes, I was looking for like, okay, now how can I make this costume, and what can I do this, and stuff like that. So, um, and Fennec, like they all the things they changed on Fennec since I made Safi's Fennec costume. I'm like, oh, I gotta change that. I gotta change that. Um, but I liked the Cad Bane scene. Um, I kind of agree that I wish we would have had more Cad Bane, but like he's kind of like a deep dive character for some people
Mhm.
because there's a lot of people. Like I am still amazed at the amount of Star Wars fans that have never watched an animated show. And so if you have never watched an animated show, a lot of this stuff is they're like, what is that? The last guy they saw like that was the guy in the cantina, the two guys in the cantina. So, but I like that. I It surprised me because I thought the Twi'lek lady, I thought she was going to be the big mastermind. Like I felt at the first
Yeah.
half they were building her to be like the big mastermind, and they just blew her up. Um, so
Yeah, I was gonna. I still plan to make a video it's the hottest characters in Star Wars. You can see where I'm going
R.I.P.
with that.
Garza Flip and no, I think in the next season, I think we're gonna have Garza Flip and Max Rebo, but with robot legs coming out of the cantina.
so
um,
what's yours, Zoe?
I really like this episode. I thought, um, I like you said, I like seeing Fennec do like assassin stuff because we know she's an assassin, but like between both Bad Batch and Mandalorian, she doesn't get to be like stealthy like assassin. Like in her introduction, she's sniping, and then later she's like, like talking to Omega and bring her out, and just seeing her like sneak around and like, like choke him out with like the wire thing. I thought that was really cool to see her get to do that on screen, and I loved Boba riding the Rancor. I realized when we were watching it, we don't really see in Star Wars that like superhero movie kind of like tearing through the city, like walls crumbling. We don't get that very much in Star Wars. It was kind of cool to see, just like yeah, this is Boba Fett riding a Rancor. How awesome is that? You know?
It reminded me a little bit of the Zillow Beast. like from
Yeah.
from the early Clone Wars.
Hmm.
Because Dave Filoni's a big Godzilla fan, so
Yeah, that fight was awesome. Have any of you guys played the Xbox Connect Star Wars game
I
back in the
played
day?
the dance one and a little bit of the Jedi mode.
Okay, okay. This I played the Rancor mode a bunch, and this was just that.
I didn't even know there was a Rancor mode, but now I gotta go play it right
yeah,
now.
we'll have to check because I went right before the pandemic hit. I think I wound up buying the Xbox that looks like R2. I found it in
Mm.
a GameStop and bought it, and it came with that connects and stuff like that. So
That
Yeah,
dance
so
game did
there's a
work
mode
out.
where you are the Rancor on Tatooine, and you just go around the city smashing people and throwing them and stuff.
oh
That's
wow,
so cool.
that
Oh
sounds
my
like
god.
that sounds like a good one. Um,
I'm trying to
what do you
think
think
of
about what? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, you say. You
I was going to say, what do you think of like my theory with Cobb Vanth being in the if they bring it back, the Rangers of the New
Oh,
Republic
see, I don't know if he's gonna be New Republic.
or
Like I
Rangers of
think
what
it was
I
the
think
Rangers of the New Republic, but I don't know if he's gonna be one of because that show, as far as we know, it doesn't seem to be going forward anymore. So I'm not
right.
sure.
I just think the badge thing. The when he pointed that badge to me, it seemed very intentional. Like when they put the badge for Cara Dune,
Hmm.
and when I first saw it, I misunderstood Rangers. I was picturing Army Rangers rappelling out of helicopters, kind of Rangers. And then after watching this, and then when that badge came up, I thought, oh, maybe they mean like Texas Rangers, like Wild West Rangers. And I don't know. That's just my opinion.
No, I'm right there with you. I'm in full agreement. Um, I always try to I I try to dive into things deeper than humans probably should, but
Have you met my family? That's what Star Wars.
yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I still at some point, your guys' setup sounds amazing. All the costumes and stuff like that. I'm trying to get on your level. Um, but I had after watching Gina Carano's interview with Ben Shapiro, and she talks about the experience of how Lucasfilm was courting her for the next project, and then those conversations fell through way before anything happened.
Right.
And they still had announced Rangers of the New Republic, even though those talks had already fallen through. So I assumed that they were already in process of retooling the show, or Rangers of the New Republic is the retooled show already. But yeah, the way he showed his badge, just like she did, as well as showing we had the New Republic presence over Tatooine in
Yep.
the X-wings in the episode 5. I thought that, I mean, to me it feels like it means something, you know.
Yeah. Well, no one liked the deputy. I feel bad for him because no one even rushed over. He got wasted, and the people just.
What I mean, Cad Bane put a lot of bullets in. He shot.
But they didn't even blink. They were just like,
I like to think that they brought both him and Cobb Vanth to the palace, and Boba Fett was like, "Man, I'm sorry, I only have one back to tank. Like, what are we gonna
yeah.
do?" And they're like, "Oh, not even a choice. Don't worry about it, buddy."
Now, do you think that tank stinks after you go put the Grimorian guards in there, or is that
I'm
like
sure he cleaned it.
Grimorian? Is that means that Boba Fett's a pretty open. I don't know if I would let a Grimorian guard use my, you know.
I mean, do they flush it out and clean
Yeah,
it properly first,
I think he
or
offered it to Black K, and I was like, "There's gonna be so much hair clogging it up."
can you imagine?
yeah?
When it goes in the rinse mode, it overflows because all the hair stuck in it.
I think he would be too tall for it anyway.
Although I just want. I mean, I figure if Boba's still in it, and you walk up and you kind of like, is that Boba Tea?
Yeah, there you go.
I think it is.
You know, might be.
He should just upgrade to like a big one like Luke had in Hoth, and they can just jump in. You know.
It gets a sauna going.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think what else happened. I know not everyone did. I thought if this is the death of Cad Bane, which it might not be, I'll leave it open to that because every time I say something definitely will happen, I'm always wrong. So he might not be the death of Cad Bane, but if it is, I think it was a fitting end for his character. And I know not everyone agrees with that, but for me, I was like, he had a good run, and I think Boba Fett killing him is one of the better ways for his character to go.
Yeah, he had a great run. I can't imagine a better conclusion for his character of, someone that he kind of partially mentored or was in competition with his father, evolving beyond bounty hunting, meaning Cad Bane is still on top when he went out.
And he was taken out by Fett, so that's no small feat.
Yeah. That'd be like if Michael Jordan didn't come back to play for the Wizards.
There you go. You're right. I don't even know sports, and I get that reference. So yeah, the only character that I still am really wanting to see live is I'd like to see Voss,
Yeah.
but man, my mind was blank. The pirate. Hondo. That's my dream. Like if I had to pick a dream character that could just, even if he could just like walk through, like just say something, and I'd be happy.
It's just so funny. I thought you were going to say Dr. Aphra though.
Well, Dr. Aphra, but I think that's inevitable.
Yeah.
I mean, I want Dr. Aphra because I want 000, and then that just makes Safi have more fans in her 000 suit. So.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just a huge 000, huge Trip fan. I mean, honestly, they got the setup. If they have Santi and her, yep, they just go on some adventures, I would be all over that show.
Well, and they have, so Chris Bartlett, who works a lot of the show, he does all the droids. Mm-hmm. He would be a perfect 000. I mean, second to Safi, I think. But because I got to know him when before I built 000 in Orlando. Somehow we had a big 501st party. Somehow I wound up hanging out with all the protocol droids. So I was like the only person that was no way ever going to fit into a protocol droid suit. Somehow hanging out with, and Chris Bartlett was one of the guys before he started working for Lucasfilm. So
that's cool. Yeah, I gotta do something and be able to join the 501st.
Well, you could listen. There's so many groups out there. So Zoe's a member of the Mando Mercs.
Mando Merc Anima Rebel Legion.
And Rebel Legion. I'm 501st. Oh, and droid builders. I'm a droid builder. If you build a whatever you call it, mouse droid, you can join the droid builders, and they get the same invites as the 501st guys. So
I'll have to keep that in mind. Mm-hmm. I plan to do a High Republic cosplay because I really love the character Emmerich from the Trail of Shadows. Solid 5-issue book. Highly recommend checking it out. But yeah, I'm gonna get there. But going back to a Book of Boba Fett, in this finale, I squealed when I saw Grogu in the cockpit of Red 5 because that was just the cutest thing I'd ever seen.
So cute. I like to think that Luke was like, "All right, kid, I'll take you back," and then he saw Tatooine. He's like, "R2's got it."
Yeah, well, people made a big deal about Luke throwing him in the X-wing, but with hyperspace, literally, he only flew up into the atmosphere, hit hyperspace, was in hyperspace for not too terribly long, and then back.
And I'm sure R2 he just had R2 override the controls so he couldn't mess with anything.
Yeah.
It was so cute.
Like who's a better babysitter than R2? Really?
Right.
Like
For real. Yeah.
Well,
No,
yeah.
it was good to see what his choice was. Because and I need to, because I said this on the podcast last week. I need to amend what I said because I thought about it more. Then I said I thought like, oh well, he can be, Mandalorian and a Jedi, and he could be. But I think the thing with Din Djarin's creed of Mandalorian, which he talked about in episode 5, is that the philosophy is incompatible with that of the Jedi philosophy. So it wasn't just like, no, Grogu, you can't be Mandalorian. It's like you can't be both that kind of Mandalorian and a Jedi, and you have to pick which way you're going. And he picked Mando, so now they're back together again. It makes me happy.
Well, I think George Lucas in the prequels, I think he was subtly trying to not so subtly. He was showing the dogma of the Jedi where they were wrong, and then I think Filoni took it even further in Clone Wars with George, and then even in Rebels when they had them like the Inquisitors taking babies. We thought that was terrible, but I think it was supposed to make us think of, look, the Jedi kind of did the same thing, and the Mandalorians are kind of like that counterpoint.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the core of it is supposed to be, selfish versus selfless.
Mm-hmm.
And so the concept of, because I've been making a bunch of videos on what I've seen and read about attachments in all these projects, and kind of like how I've seen them referred to behind the scenes. And when you have someone like Anakin, it wasn't that he had someone that he cared for that was the problem. It was that he couldn't let her go. And if given the choice of burn the galaxy to the ground for a chance to save her, he chose that option. And you're like,
Yeah,
that's not the right option, buddy. And so when we got to this point in the Mandalorian season 2, because Ahsoka seemed to have those same feelings, but Ahsoka walked away from the Jedi Order. She wasn't so attached that she couldn't let the Jedi go, and she couldn't. And she still cared for him. She still, loved Anakin and missed all of her friends, but she was able to let that go. And when talking about Grogu, she said, I'm not going to train him because of his attachments. I've seen what it can do to the best of us. So yeah, I actually don't think the attachment or the dealing with the attachment was the major downfall of the Jedi. I think the major downfall was putting something in between them serving the will of the Force. Right? They were serving the Republic over the Force, and I think the rule of attachment is roughly the same thing. Is if your attachment gets in between you serving the will of the Force, that's when it's a problem. They could obviously use some reform, for sure. That is absolutely the point. But I think it's not as black and white as you should be able to do whatever you want.
Right. Yeah, and I think that was the thing, is like, like the Jedi Order is not for everybody. It doesn't make it wrong, but it's something you have to dedicate yourself to. And if you can't, then you not that, like, I don't know, not that you shouldn't try, I guess, but like if you can't do it and if you don't want to do it, it's not going to work out. And I think that's what Grogu's choice was about.
Also, you probably shouldn't take a kid and tell them their whole life they're really special and they're the chosen one, and then not let them be on the council. Because he started telling, like Luke started telling baby Grogu how he reminded him of Yoda, this great warrior. And I'm like, oh wait a minute, you're doing exactly what they did to Anakin. Like one minute he was the chosen one, and the next minute he couldn't. And that's where I like the Clone Wars, because I think the Clone Wars, on what you were saying too, where stuff got in the way of the Jedi. I think when you watch the Clone Wars and then you watch Revenge of the Sith, you understand, like in the Clone Wars, pretty much every one of those people on that council was saved by Anakin at least once, and the same abilities that he used to save them, now they were telling him he wasn't worthy to sit with them. That's the messed up part, I think, for him.
Well, he was just constantly being like kind of gaslit and pumped up by Palpatine. On the other hand, too.
Yep. Oh yeah, yeah.
Him
But I'm
always
saying,
being like,
yeah. But I mean, like he saved more clones and more Jedi than anyone combined. That's one thing I liked about the Clone Wars was it made when Obi-Wan Kenobi said in New Hope he was a great warrior and friend. That those lines along with the Clone Wars lines, it's like that's what Dave Filoni lived by when he made those shows.
yeah, phenomenal character. And I'm excited for some of the stuff that they've hinted for Kenobi.
Well, that's what, Zoe and I were talking about, like the possible guest appearances on Kenobi and Andor, because there's a lot of characters they can throw in those two shows.
I think Andor's gonna have so many.
Because the time frame is a good mix for the new fans and the fans my age. It's that you can just throw in so many things.
Yeah, especially with Andor. I mean, I hope we get some early rebellion stuff. I mean, if I feel like Saw Gerrera shows up everywhere. He's gonna show up in that for sure.
Yeah,
but
I really hope we get to see like Rex, like Tamara Morrison with the big beard.
Yeah,
for Andor, that would be my number one. I think.
Maybe poor Daniel Logan will get another shot.
Oh, Danny. Yeah, back to Boba Fett.
Sorry.
Sorry.
No, it's my fault too. I'm trying to think. I thought just because we haven't mentioned it yet, the fight with Boba and Mando versus all of the Pikes was awesome.
Yeah,
so
that was
cool
good.
to see.
Knee rockets. I don't even understand how knee rockets work or like why, but they're cool.
That's like I love it when they just like shove their arm out and like all this stuff happens. I'm like, I have no idea how you're making it do that when you want it to, but I support it. It looks great.
That's the helmet. It's on the helmet. Yeah, I'm working on a set of knee pieces for. I don't. Have you ever heard of the band Galactic Empire? They do like
yeah.
So, my friend and we got commissioned to redo their costumes. So I actually have the drummers. I just redid his Boba Fett costume, and we're redoing the bassist. The bassist was just over at the house last night, and we're redoing his costumes so they can wear them when their costumes weren't very wearable for them. So I just repainted them, but I just did knee rockets for his Boba Fett. So I don't know how
interesting. I don't know how comfortable it's gonna. I'm a drummer myself.
Yeah.
So I'm like thinking of like his solid double bass with the knee rockets, but I'm here for it.
Yeah, I don't know if he'll wear the knee rockets when he does it, but like the gauntlets, I had to shorten them and make them super tight for him to wear. And then his helmet, the cheeks have cutouts with screens in them, so he can see the drums.
Yeah.
But I don't know. They just wanted them repainted, and we redid their stormtroopers. Stormtroopers the hardest because that's the basis, and there's very limited movement in that. But yeah, it's funny because you see all those parts and stuff, and as I didn't get into making costumes till not too terribly long ago, and I find myself looking at all this. I'm like, man, how do you wear that? And Zoe does Sabine. When Sabine first came out, there was only like 2 other people that did Sabine. That's how we met. Lizzy's not here tonight, but her partner in her podcast, Lizzy, that's how we met her because her dad. I don't know if you ever heard of the Rogue Rebels, or you ever see like when Dave Filoni has the family up that dresses as the Ghost Crew.
Oh yeah.
So that's the Rogue Rebels. That's Lizzie's mom and dad, and Lizzy and her brother Axel. And that's how we met. We met like 8 years ago or something, right, Zoe? Making a costume.
Yeah, something like that.
And then they started their podcast. They met first at Celebration. So I mean, in person, they had what you guys have been recording a year and a half before we went to Celebration, right?
Yes, that sounds right.
Yeah, it's just weird how Star Wars, because you're in California, right?
Yeah.
So we're in Quarryville, Pennsylvania, which is basically like the Tatooine of Pennsylvania.
Who knows? Maybe I ran into you guys at some point at Celebration 2015. Did you go that one?
Was that we went the first one? No, we went to
First one we went to was Orlando,
Orlando. That was 17, right?
The following year.
but
Gotcha.
Yeah.
plan is now to go to the one in Anaheim this year. So
Yep.
see
Well,
then.
I'll be there. I'll be
Yeah.
there. Right,
I'm just waiting to hear. I have my tickets. I never sold my tickets back, so I'm just waiting. Like, just give me that, whatever. So yeah, do you have your celebration tickets? I would assume already, right?
I actually do not, but
Oh, okay.
I'm hoping that I've made enough of a splash to where I could get in as some type of a vendor or something. I don't know. I'll be
Yeah.
there. I'll be
Yeah.
there. I'll make it happen.
Well, Reed Pop's pretty nice because Zoe did her first panel at Orlando, and then she did a podcast stage in Chicago. So they're good people. I just think this COVID thing threw everything off because we didn't sell our tickets back because I knew we were going to go no matter what. Um, but they just seem to be a little out of sorts right now just because of all of that.
Yeah.
But now, how far are you from? Are you near LA
I'm in where do I
or
live at?
Anaheim?
I live in Oceanside, California.
Oh,
So
okay.
from Anaheim, I'm probably I don't know, probably in an hour.
Oh,
I
that's
used to live in Huntington Beach. I was right there, and
Oh, okay.
we practically we lived at Disneyland, and that's across the street from it, the
Oh, nice.
convention center.
Yeah, because we drove to California one year, and we went stayed in Anaheim. So.
That's a drive, man.
Oh yeah,
It
we
was.
it was just it was cheap at the time. It was cheaper to drive. The whole trip cost me less than what airfare would have cost for 4 people just driving,
Yeah.
and it was comfortable most of the time. There was sometimes we were thinking, "What the hell are we doing?" But we got to go to all the Star Wars locations in Death Valley, which I would highly
Oh,
recommend
that's cool.
if you don't mind 125-degree heat. Um,
Yeah, I don't like it, but no, I can survive
the
a
over
a
the
little bit.
overlook where you see Mos Eisley is awesome
Yeah.
because even without Mos Eisley composed on the screen, you still have that feeling. It's so cool.
I love getting to experience more of the city, in the Book of Boba Fett. Like
Yes.
we've always kind of known that they live in on the outskirts and like just kind of the crappy parts of it. But it's interesting to actually see a city. And I know a lot of people had a problem with the mods.
I like the mod. See,
But yeah, I feel like they really showed us people that not all of Tatooine is just like there is a city there and there are city people and they are considered city people and
and you can be
country folk.
clean. You can be clean. You don't have to be dirty, like to be on Tatooine.
They have the technology, you know.
Well, Han was pretty clean for walking around Tatooine. Like he wasn't as dirty as I like the mods, and then my friend Marty, when he watched it, I was talking to him the next day, and he was one of those people I was thinking, oh, I bet you Marty's going to hate these um, mods, and he liked them. He's like, hey, yeah, that seems like a cool way to get like the young people and the old people to kind of like the show, because
Well, I mean, I also having I'm not a young person now, but having been young, it also makes sense that there would need to be countercultures
yeah.
within, you know what I mean? Like they aren't going to dress like their parents are when you are a teenager.
Well, it gave me a feel of the like not the motorcycle gangs, but almost like the 50s when you had almost like a feel of American graffiti, kind of those kind of when they were cruising around, kind of they were all dialed up and cruising around.
Yeah. Yeah. When I first saw them, my first thought was like George Lucas would have loved these. Like
Hmm.
it felt Lucasy to me.
You still there, Zoe?
Yeah, I'm right here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I also like the mods. I don't know any of their names. I know they have names, I just don't remember them. But I like that one girl.
It was just weird when people were getting all worked up about zippers too. I thought that was funny.
People like to find things.
I guess I came from like not having Star Wars for so long that it would take a really bad Star Wars something for me to be angry about it.
Yeah, and what's funny is like I make a lot of Star Wars content, and there is stuff that I am not super fond of, and it just doesn't come into my mind. Like it's not like
Right.
I avoid talking about it. I just don't think about it. Like I don't know. I feel like it's odd to just kind of like marinate in what you don't like.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah.
Well, you remember when the Force Awakens first came out, everybody loved it for the first whatever, and then all of a sudden one person said something negative, and they got tons of attention. And then all of a sudden people started talking about how it was a copy of this and copy of that, and it was like that one person like opened the floodgates.
Well, I mean, it's just kind of a hate economy. Like it's easy to monetize anger. It's very easy.
Hmm.
Um, if you my content is always I always try to be the opposite of that, but it's funny because I can make it doesn't even matter what I dislike, but talking about dislike gets more views. It just does, and some of these people end up becoming full-time content creators and they don't hate stuff and are trapped in the cycle of like, well, this is my life now. I've had that conversation with with some content creators of like, I don't know, it's interesting.
Yeah, and I think, like you said, like hate gets more views and stuff. And I try to not I don't like, if a movie would come out and I didn't like it, I wouldn't lie and make a whole podcast about how much I loved it. But I try to focus on things I like and stay positive. Because even I feel like any movie, that's like 2.5 hours. Think of one thing you like and at least mention it. Like, there has to be something. Even if it's just really small. Like maybe you like someone's jacket in the movie. Um, because I think when you just go all negative, it can just take a lot. It can just be draining. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know with myself, one of my more controversial opinion apparently is I wasn't a fan of Rogue One when it came out. Um, but still, when I did my episode of Rogue One, I had people on that absolutely loved it and told me why they loved it, and I watched it again from their eyes, and it definitely jumped up some spots for me. When you can be like, oh man, I totally missed it, but I loved it because there's so many different perspectives and points of view for people who are watching it. Not to mention the characters in there all have their own perspectives and things, and there's no true right or wrong, and that's one of the reasons why I love Star Wars, and by extension the community, just how it you someone likes something for this reason, and you find out kind of their backstory, their history through these things that they love, and I don't know, it's beautiful. Like I love how you guys as a family use Star Wars as something that connects you guys like very deeply. I think that's amazing.
Well, thank you. Have you seen her? Have you seen our Star Wars story? I always get in trouble for promoting my kid too much. But have you watched her episode of our Star Wars stories?
I have not.
You should watch it, and then you should tell me what you think. I would love to hear the Choco reply on TikTok of her episode because that like if I would have known that was going to happen sometime in my life, it would have made a lot of things go so much nicer. If someone would have said Lucasfilm is going to come to your house and do a story on your daughter at any point in my life, it would have made my life even better. You know.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm like with you with all Star Wars for me, I've lucked out, or maybe not because I'm old now, but I've lucked out that I've got to see every movie in the theater, and every movie has locked in a happy moment in my life. Like I think back in '77 when I saw New Hope, I grew up with my grandparents. I didn't live with my parents, and in the '70s, that was a big deal. That wasn't like it is now. People understand that things happen, but when I saw Luke lived with his aunt and uncle, that's the first thing that clicked with me in that movie. I was like, because they didn't even make a big deal about it. It wasn't like it was like just the whole story went on, and like
No.
Empire, I was just getting into junior high, and then Force Awakens was the first movie with the girls. Like the first time I saw Force Awakens, I watched Zoe and Safi more than I watched the movie. You know, we saw that thing so many times when we got the credit card bill. I was like, who spent all this money? Like you saw that movie like 13 times. I was like, oh okay. So
Yeah, we even we drove to episode in Sacramento at the time. But yeah, me and my buddy even like found the biggest IMAX theater in the country is in San Francisco, so we're gonna drive out there and watch it. And I think we even watched it twice out there. But yeah, we went
yeah.
we went ham on it.
Well, we lucked out. Like even was it Solo we saw in a drive-in? Wasn't it
Yes.
Zoe? Like because
Yeah. That
we
first
lucked.
scene was pretty hard to see in the drive-in. I'm not gonna
That's
lie.
true. That's true. But it was
Very dark.
but it was pretty neat. Like it was and like I think it was the Rise of Skywalker was when Sappy was in 000, I think, and all the movie theaters went nuts, and they let her like go behind the popcorn counter as 000, and so like every one of these has like a memory, you know. And we saw Rise of Skywalker in this old theater from the '50s that was restored, and you had the big bowed floor, and and that was really neat to see too. So I don't know, they all just have something, you know, um, attached. Even the first Star Wars movie that I saw multiple times, because if I would ask my grandfather to see a movie a second time in 1977, he would have laughed his head off. But was the Clone Wars. We saw that what 5 or 6 times, right? Or the Clone Wars movie.
We saw it a lot.
Yeah, because that was Zoe was just coming to age. You were like 7 or 8.
7.
7 when she saw it. And that's what hooked her.
That's awesome.
I mean, she was hooked before because when she was born, I was in college. I had gone back to college, so I just had Star Wars playing on a loop when I was watching her all day. So she saw all the movies that were out before she was like 6 months old.
Yeah, my for me it was my mom was always a closet nerd. My dad very much was not, but yeah, my earliest memory is I couldn't tell you how many times I watched Empire Strikes Back. I don't recall ever watching A New Hope.
Oh,
To be
really?
honest, when I was little, I probably did, but I don't remember it. But like on loop, if I wasn't watching Empire Strikes Back, then I was watching The Labyrinth.
Oh, yeah, that's a
Um,
good one too.
and if it wasn't the Labyrinth, I just had like 3 or 4 movies that would just cycle, and so like my love of Star Wars came before I knew what Star Wars was, and so it's just always been there. And then of course I got to grow up when they were being re-released, the
Hmm.
special editions, and that was just a beautiful time. Now I'm envious of all these kids who like they get the Legos, and I had to like
Make your own.
Legos were not nearly as creative. They were more than the era before me, but like you only had one type of Lego that bent, and you just had to like. So it's funny because I bought so many sets solely because I was trying to build Star Wars stuff. So it'd be like an airplane and a boat, and I can deconstruct both of these and make a really cool X-wing. That was just janky as all get out, but it worked.
Yeah, I think Sappy and I had a Hogwarts set, and then our little cousins deconstructed it, so we rebuilt it into a cantina.
Yeah, that Hogwarts set turned me off the Legos, man. Because I spent a whole weekend, and I was like, okay, now what I do with it? Yeah, mine's always been Tatooine. So there's my There's my sand trooper right there. No, there's my
Nice.
sand trooper. There's the podcast sign from Star Wars Celebration Chicago. I somehow got that thing home.
That's so cool.
And then when Matt Martin was here from the story group when they filmed her show, and he saw that, and I was like, "Oh crap, I'm gonna get in trouble." You know, he's like, "Nah." He said, "I took all the Princess Leia signs when I was leaving Chicago too."
That's hilarious. I was trying to, and I wasn't able to procure it, but I'm friends with the artist Jason Palmer, and he did the big mural,
Oh
and
yeah, yeah, yeah.
so I was like hitting him up, like, hey man, what are you gonna do with that thing? So I don't know what I would do with it, but I want it.
It'll, you know what? It'll sit somewhere, and then like 10 years from now, it'll show up at Steve Sansweet's place at Rancho Obi-Wan. That's what'll happen. I got one
I
of
need
the,
to get up there. I need to go there because I've heard it's amazing.
we were when we see over on this side of the country, we just think California, everything's close by. So when we went to LA, we were like, oh, we'll go up to see Lucasfilm, and then when we looked at the map, we are like, nah, we did too much driving already.
Yeah, it's so even people in California do it as well. I've had
Yeah.
friends because I was from Northern California, and they're like flying in, and I'm gonna pick them up at the airport, and they're like, "Yo, yeah, we actually changed our flight. We're going to Van Nuys instead. Just pick us up there." And I'm like,
Yeah.
"What? That's like 2 hours away if there's no traffic. Like, why?" They're like, "Oh, it's everything down there is it's 20 minutes, right?" I'm like, no, no.
Well, we dealt with Philly traffic to get Zoe home. That was 4.5 hours of traffic, all both ways. So it was 2.5 hours down and 2.5 hours home. I was like, oh, but it's nice because my students, I've always had Star Wars in my classroom, and up until Force Awakens came out, the students just looked at me like there was something wrong with me. And then when it now they I have students that like it. I take my stormtrooper armor in like on May the 4th and let students wear it for to do the morning announcements and stuff like that. So
That's awesome. Yeah, then for sure I'm probably gonna need some advice because I've decided for sure I'm doing Emmerich, and then I also just ordered some things to 3D print. I actually I want to see if I can make a black chrysanthemum um, costume. I
so
think it might be ambitious for me, but I should show you what I got.
so I don't know if you ever saw any of my videos with Chewbacca on them. So my best friend Marty does one of the best Chewbaccas ever. And if you need help building any kind of Wookiee, talk to him, and I'll get you in touch with him because his is all handmade. He made it from scratch. So if you check out my TikTok with actually the one video that got me like 29 million views or something like that has him on it, and
Okay.
so, but he does really good Wookiees. He does the underskull and everything because he was looking at the chrysanthemum and he was saying that because I asked him because the one of the guys I met on TikTok that does costumes with us, he wants to do one, and Marty was saying the biggest problem people are going to have with that chrysanthemum costume is the shoulders because that guy is so big. To get the proportions with the head right is going to be the difficult part. But I watch him as Chewy all the time, and I'm fascinated, and he'll help you. You know, how tall
Yeah.
are you? How tall are you?
I'm 5'11", and I actually do have a set of shoulders on me, so
Okay,
who knows? I
so
might be able to,
well, the
to
key
pull
the
it up.
key to Chewy is you just got to get comfortable stilts. So it's probably the same thing with Chrysanthemum. I can never say that name. But Marty uses drywall stilts. So
Okay.
that's a you want stilts that are comfortable. I've seen guys make them out of wood and all this. They're gonna wind up breaking their neck. Last thing you want to do is dress up in a cool costume and then have to be buried in it. You know.
Sorry, Zoe. I feel like I'm taking over.
Nope,
No,
that's what
no.
you're here for. You're
Yeah,
here to
that's
talk.
what I'm telling you. When it comes to TikTok and Star Wars, like you're my go-to for that. I always miss a lot of your lives just because it's the West Coast, and Zoe's had to deal with that with Lizzy because they started their podcast. Zoe's a senior in film school now, but when they started it, what, you were in ninth grade? Beginning of ninth
Yes.
grade.
Yeah, ninth
Beginning
grade.
of ninth grade in school. So these kids got Star Wars all over the place.
Well, I get it. If I can ask a question, if you guys could greenlight your dream Star Wars project, what would you want to create?
I'm gonna let Zoe go first on that one. I got to hear hers.
Gosh. Like my dream costume?
Or no, anything like
Or
movie,
dream
show.
movie, right. I
Or show or book?
and yeah, anything. I would love a comic series about Sabine and Ketsu. That's just me being, Sabine fan. But that history that they hinted at in like Blood Sisters, um, that would be so cool. And I'm trying to think because I always used to say I want Glover Lando anything, and now he's getting a series, so we're getting that. Yeah, I think I'd love to see more because I love the High Republic, and I'd love to see a little bit more exploration of like not Jedi stuff in the High Republic. Like I know that I love the Jedi, and the whole appeal of the High Republic is the Jedi. But we get hints of like other things happening, like with Happy Hollow's storyline, and like I'd love to see a bit more of what else is going on in that time period.
Yeah. What's her name? The reporter, Real.
Oh yeah.
I would love to see like some of that stuff play out as well. That would be awesome.
Mine maybe is a cop out, but my dream, if I had to greenlight anything, I want a Wednesday live action Star Wars show that just is every Wednesday. It's live action. And directors and writers get 3 or 4 episodes of whatever they want, and we don't know what we're getting. You know what I mean? But we get 52 episodes a year every week, and it's just constantly. So you might get 3 Boba Fett episodes, you might get 3 Mando episodes, and it's just every Wednesday. That's what I want. Just perpetual Star Wars.
That'd be cool. It'd be like popcorn. But they would each have to be like a self-contained story.
Yeah, they could have maybe give them a guideline, like maybe you can have up to 4 episodes, but no more. And then you can continue them later, but you got to give someone else a chance. Because with the volume, they should. If I was a rich Disney CEO, I'd build like 6 of those volumes, and it's just like, here we go, let's just get working.
That would be really cool. I never think about it because I feel like we need to play around with more genres. Like we gotta, we got Western. I need a heist.
Yeah.
So that's for me. I need some sort of heist. Maybe even like a heist show. You know what I mean? Something like a Leverage, but in Star Wars.
Yeah. Well, right. Like, or even give us the Bothans getting the plans or something, or I mean, I'd like to see a move away from, like, I like the old, I like all of it, but I do like what you're saying. I'd like to see it spread out into just different stuff, Like, show me some smugglers, show me some heist stuff.
I want a buddy cop movie about 2 clone troopers.
And Tamara Morrison plays them both. It'll be that 70s twin movies where they're just on each side of the screen. Or they'll be facing each other, and you can tell it's an extra. Well, I think going back to a little bit to when we talk about the creators and the fans get a little toxic, I do feel, and I hope I never become this, and maybe I have, but I don't know it. But I think some people they've made their fandom a job. Like if they don't have something to say, I love TikTok and I love all the social media. I've seen all the Star Wars stuff, but I feel like sometimes there's people that are just like, they feel like if they have to say something and it becomes a job, and then it makes them forget why they love it in the first place.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I've even started to fall into that at different times myself. And so now rather than do that, you'll notice at certain points I just won't make any content.
Yeah.
Or we'll have stuff saved up because there are certain days where I'm just bursting at the seams and I'm like, like 6 videos. So like, I should post this all today. No, just wait, do half, half now, half later.
Well, I got traumatized. The first time I posted a video with my face on, I lost like 300 followers. So I didn't put my face on for a while. That was back. I think I had like 1,000 followers, and I did a video or something with my face, and it went down to like 600. I was like, oh man, I'm not gonna do that for a while.
That's messed up. I like your face. You know, just
you know, it's got some miles on it. So Zoe got in trouble for stealing. Someone told Zoe she put a video of her up as Sabine, and someone accused her of stealing my videos because I had put videos of I filmed her making a video and put that up first.
I had to edit mine, so by the time I finished editing it, you already had yours up. And people were like, "I actually stole this from blah blah." I was like, "That's my dad. This is me." Oh man, it's so funny.
Oh man,
but
no,
yeah,
the community is a trip. But I gotta say, like, the positive side of the Star Wars community is the best of any community, bar none. Like, it's not even close.
Absolutely.
Like, me having this conversation with you guys right now, and just like being able to hang out with people, and like, I don't know, I've never felt anything near this in any other fandom. And I'm a huge, Marvel guy myself, and a huge DC guy myself. I actually, for a little while, the Firefly fandom was really cool. I'm afraid of what it might be right now.
Yeah, I haven't stepped in. I was in that when there was that big push years ago to get it redone, to restart it. Remember, this was back when they were putting all these petitions online and stuff like that. And then I know a few people that still dress as that, but I and I want to rewatch it, but then all the stuff coming out about what's his face, I'm like, do I really want to rewatch this?
Exactly. Yeah.
So, but I used to own a comic book store way before Zoe was born. I started a comic book store in the '90s for a while. So my loves growing up were Star Wars, Dungeons and Dragons, and Spider-Man. I proposed to my wife with Amazing Spider-Man 289 when Mary Jane proposed to, or when Peter Parker proposed to Mary Jane. So
that's awesome. That means, Zoe, you never had a chance. No, I love that. No, I'm joining a brand new fandom. So even a little bit like after this, I will be watching. I'm watching Harry Potter for the very first time.
Oh
I've
yeah.
never seen anything before. So
have you read the books?
Nope, never watched, never read. I put all my eggs in just put all my eggs in certain baskets. So like last year I saw The Lord of the Rings for the first time. This year is Harry Potter for the very first time. And we watched Goblet of Fire last time. So whichever one comes next is what we're watching tonight.
That's a good
no,
one.
Order of the Phoenix, I think, is next.
Okay.
The book so my wife's a language arts teacher, and when the first Harry Potter book came out, that revolutionized books for kids, because that was the first time someone realized you could make money by making books that kids might actually want to read instead of reading the old classics that they hated. And Missy said, "Oh, you should read this," and that was one of the. I like reading technical stuff. Like I'll read a book on how to fix a car or fix something this and that. But reading stuff, it's not really my. I like the new Star Wars books, but I don't read like Zoe. But when I read the Harry Potter books, I loved them. And the movies, if their books are an easy read. I mean, they look thick, but they're written like it just flies.
Okay.
Now, Zoe, what were you? Yeah, I would definitely read the first one. At least the first one, I thought made the movie even better, because it makes all that stuff you see on the screen. There's an explanation for all of it in the book. Like, it's just sorry. Zoe was a big Harry Potter fan too. We went to the Harry Potter when she was little, and she got her wand from, what was that place?
Ollivanders.
Ollivanders.
Universal.
Yeah. We lucked out when we went to. I haven't been to Galaxy's Edge yet. Zoe has, but we lucked out when we went to. Last time we went to Disney was their last Star Wars weekends they had, so we got to see all that
Nice.
stuff, which was kind of cool. And some of our friends marched in the parade for the 501st.
So I take it since you're in Pennsylvania, you didn't get to be on set for Mando or anything like that.
No, I know some people that were on set. That some guys that I just met at Chicago. Actually, I made a droid head for one of the guys that did a trooper and stuff. And but yeah, no, I didn't get to. I think Sal, Lizzie's dad, was watching from a balcony when they did the outdoor scenes. But yeah, it's funny because as a 501st member, I could tell the costumes that are Lucasfilm costumes, and I can tell the costumes that are our guys' costumes because our guys' costumes are more accurate. So it's just funny, you know.
That's awesome.
And you watch Rogue One and Solo, they use totally different stormtrooper suits, which drives all of us nuts because like why didn't you use the ones from New Hope? You know, but they use they made totally new suits. And so now like if you ever go on the 501st site, there's a page called CRLs. It has all the approved costumes and you can find the one you want to do. So there's like 6 different stormtroopers you can do, you know. I like the New Hope because they're left-handed, and I'm a left-handed person, so I can carry it, with my left hand.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that.
Because
I've always thought about doing a scout trooper just because it looks so freaking comfortable.
Yeah, the scout, and after watching Mando, I really like the scout trooper because they made like the scout troopers in Return of the Jedi were kind of cool, but they didn't really seem that badass or anything. And then with when they were chasing them down the hill, or in the second season when they were jumping down the hill chasing that armored transport and stuff, and they were wearing their costumes wrong. So like you can wear you can wear the knee pieces upside down, and it's canon now. The guys who IG-11 beat up, they had their knee pieces upside down.
That's funny. But who don't? I mean, the Empire had already fallen then, and these were probably just like scrubs. These were not to mention all the highest ranking people died on the first Death Star.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
and then all the second highest ranking people died on the second one.
These were the guys that were sitting in the bar telling how great of troopers they were, and then everyone died, and they're like, "Oh yeah, every one of those guys sucked." Well, we helped the kids. So we did an event one time where we took some stuff to a cancer survivor. He was like 17, and he wanted to build a scout trooper. So in the course of a couple of years, we actually helped him build a scout trooper. And now he's in some of my TikTok videos too. We took a 360 camera to Safi's college, and she danced around as 000. People just looked at us like we were weird. And then they yell out Black C-3PO, and sometimes that sounds like it's like I don't know,
Like that feels wrong.
Yeah, it's just I don't know,
Awesome. I love it.
But yeah, if you need any help with any costumes, let me know. Especially if you're doing a Wookiee. Marty's good at that, so I could do droids, but I can't. Like I said, I can't fit into them. But now, do you have a 3D printer?
I don't have a 3D printer myself, but I have a friend that lives close by that does, and owes me.
Oh, that's good because there's a lot of stuff you could, because Zoe's costume, the only thing 3D printed are your pistols, right, Zoe?
Yes.
The rest we had to make by hand because 3D printers weren't a thing when we made the first of it.
My comlink might be 3D printed.
Yeah, that's new though. But yeah, I would strongly suggest joining one of the groups if that's what you want to do. I mean, it's not for everybody, but it's kind of fun. California has some of the really good groups. And I don't know where you said Orange County or Orange. No, you said Oceanside. No.
Yeah, I'm in Oceanside, so I'm near San Diego, and I know that there's groups down here.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think what squad, because there's different. California has more groups. Like Pennsylvania, we basically have 2 groups. We have Eastern PA and Western PA. but California has a whole bunch. Like there's like the Imperial Garrison, which is down in Imperial County, and then there's Southern California Garrison and a whole bunch. Um, but it's a good group. It's like the fandom. Like you'll find 99% are good, and you'll find the small percent that aren't. And you just kind of stay away from the ones that aren't. and I also sometimes think when they say Star Wars fans and the toxic fan, I don't know if you can really be a Star Wars fan. You're not getting Star Wars if you're acting a certain way. At least from what I
Agreed.
see.
Agreed,
Like,
but it's worth it. So every now and then I'll have to.
No, I mean it's. I think sometimes the toxic people only survive because most of us are just trying to be so nice. Sometimes you feel like you just need to call them out, but you don't want to come across as that guy either. Out of context.
Yeah, it does. It does get way on you, and it makes me sad because there's so many people too. Like if you saw, I'm mutuals with a lot of these really big creators in like the comic book space, and all of them are huge Star Wars fans. All of them. They just don't make it.
Well, Goofy, was it Goofy Hat guy?
Yeah, Straw Hat Goofy talked about it.
And
because Jay Stoops, I started having her on my podcast, and she had like 5,000 followers and stuff like that. And she came on for all the Padme books and like on my anniversary episode, and like there's so many Theories by T. We've been mutuals for a long time, but they just don't want to deal with it. Dad the Bounty Hunter used to be a political TikToker. He had left the platform. He was going to be on the very first episode of my podcast. It didn't end up working out, and then shortly after, he switched to political TikTok because it was less
easier.
Yeah, that's what he says. There was less toxicity in 2021.
That says some. That's yeah. Well, but I think science fiction and science fantasy have always been a good way to get across points. Like if you look at the racial barriers that Star Trek tried to cover in the 60s, and those Star Wars, if we look back under 2022 light, maybe Star Wars wasn't as good as it should have been in 77, but compared to what was being put out, it was trying, And I think sometimes the fan, and I say fans in air quotes, the fans, they feel like they're losing ground in the political arena and the real world, which is dumb. But the last people they can pick on is the other fans, like because I've dealt with, I haven't dealt, like I'm a middle class white guy, so no one picks on me. Not saying I don't deserve it, but it's just unfortunately that's how our society is. That's just how our society is, and I've had to deal with that. Like I was raised not to be prejudiced or anything. My grandfather was pretty big on that. But I saw what Zoe had to go through just being a little kid fan, like grown men, and I would be arguing Star Wars with a 6-year-old because and I'm like,
and
really?
I won.
And she would win, but I'm like who goes into that battle, And the same with people, anyone of color, and I think Star Wars is trying to catch up and make ground for all the fans, because I see it in my students when I see representation on it. I see what it can do to a kid who wants representation in any way, shape, or form. I know it from boohoo me, like not living with my parents, but which is nothing compared to what other kids have to put up with. And so it's so nice to see kids can have representation.
And it comes in all different forms. I mean, even things that you would think would be small, but growing up in the 90s, we have the re-releases coming out, and we play Star Wars at school, and I'd want to be Luke Skywalker, and I was never allowed to be Luke Skywalker. I could be Lando or I could be Chewbacca. That's what they told me. And you're like, but it meant a lot, seeing these other characters. And yeah, sure, we're not quite there yet, but like every inch, means something. Every inch matters.
Yep.
I had my own, misgivings. My least favorite Star Wars project is Rise of Skywalker. Um, but talking to one of my friends who, you know, is adopted and does have horrible parents that came from like terrible places, who, she only considers them a donor,
Yeah.
really. That's not her family. She chose who her family was. And like hearing those types of experiences, and then me thinking like, oh, for me it was just like a name.
Yeah.
Like, God, I'm an idiot. It's I don't know, it just but that's what I love. That's why I love these conversations, because you like find these cool nuggets.
Sorry, Zoe. I told you I wasn't going to talk so much. I'll shut
No,
up
no,
now.
no. You're supposed to talk. That's what you're here for.
Well, Zoe was telling me, and you can explain this more because Chaco's more well read than I am. But what's your thing with all the books? You'll have what read by when? You were telling me.
Oh, I'm rereading some books so I can write reviews for the website, but I should have them all the canon books read and reviewed by the end of July, unless they spring new ones. But I know there's some releasing in the next few months and they're accounted for. But if they spring a new one on me in that time period, but besides that, I'll have them all done. I have most of them
Nice.
read. Rereading Catalyst right now. I don't know if you've read that one.
James Luceno, yeah.
Yeah. I'm most of the way through that book for the second time. So
It's funny you say it, because I'm actually trying to do the same thing myself, and it's because I did catch up on canon books, at least the large ones. Or certain small ones like Levers of Power that I haven't read, and I still get made fun of for not reading that particular one. But it's become such a long running joke that I just can't ever read it. Um, but yeah, I want to try to
I've read
get
it.
reviews up for everything. What's your favorite so far?
I'll have to reread. This is one I haven't read in a while, but I think Ahsoka, just because I'm a huge Ahsoka fan. So Ahsoka, but I also really love. I like the Leia book. I think that's just a really great like character study of
Mhm.
Leia and A New Dawn. Always has my heart because of Kanan and Hera.
I like the print. What's the first Padme book?
Queen's Ho. No, it's a new one. Queen's
First
Shadow.
Hal.
That
Queen's
one. No,
Shadow. Queen's Peril. Queen's Hope.
Whatever the Queen. I can't believe I actually read that book, and I can't believe that's probably one of my favorite ones. But see, now this comes into the type of reading I like. I read the unauthorized biography of George Lucas, and that I don't know if you ever seen that book. It just has a picture of him standing with C-3PO on the front, and that's a really good book. Um,
Okay, I'll have to check that out then.
because
There's
I lucked out. I teach in Maryland, and there's a library connected to our parking lot. And some teacher said, "Hey, aren't you the Star Wars guy? There's some Star Wars guy going over his book." And it was an unauthorized biography. And all I remember is I just went for the heck of it. And I asked him, I said, "Well, why is it the unauthorized biography?" Because I always thought usually these were like hate pieces, like people wrote and stuff. And he said, "No, unauthorized means I go back and look at all the original sources, and I don't interview someone now, so they can't recreate history, like." And so it's a nice. He doesn't say anything bad about him, but it's an easy read. It's just it just goes through the years of his life. So I don't know. I always like
nice.
that one. And the Anthony Daniels book is really good too.
IMC3PO, yeah. And then of course, the Princess Diarist um, was really good, especially that one. I had to go audio version for sure, because Carrie reads it herself. Was really good. Speaking of, when it comes to the books, like my favorite ones are always the ones I'm not expecting to be. So as like I did really enjoy, like you said, Leia Princess of Alderaan, but Leia Bloodline, like
That's a good one too.
that book, like I rocked my socks off, and I
Yeah.
never thought I'd be like an adult man reading, you know, about 60-year-old Leia going on adventures, and and it's awesome.
That one's good. I read last week. I reread Dark Disciple, and that
Oh, that
book
one's good. That one's good.
is just that book just feels like watching the Clone Wars. It's amazing. And
But-
another one that I didn't expect it to like it as much as I did. Not because I thought it would be like bad, just because it was like it's like kids' books. But the Servants of the Empire series, about Zara Leonis, I think is really, really good and surprisingly dark for how young the target audience is.
Maybe they'll bring Zare back.
I would love to see Zara again. The ending of those. It's 4 books. They're actually, if you have an Amazon Prime account, I think they're free with like the Kindle app, because they're hard to find otherwise. But the ending of the book opens up, and it has his sister Dara Leonis, who is force sensitive, and is taken by the Empire, and he goes and rescues her, and it's just such a great set of books.
Yeah, I didn't jump into that one. I need to, like I said, like
very easy reads.
Yeah.
Like,
but ones that I thought I would love, like both of Luke Skywalker books. There's Weapon of the Jedi and Heir to the Jedi.
Heir to the Jedi.
Hated both of them.
Yeah,
There's. I wouldn't say I hated them, but they didn't pull me in as much as other Star Wars books tend to. They were pacing wise, I think, just a little slow.
wait a minute. Are they the old
Arkham
books?
was the same way for me. I didn't think it was bad. I was just like, all right, I get it. You're in the ship, and there are ships over there, and you're chasing them. It's been 100 pages now. Give me something.
See, I never got into the books because and this was my excuse for not reading. George Lucas, I saw an interview when I was a kid, and he said something like the books didn't count. So to me, that was like a license to, okay, I don't got to read. I don't got to read now.
Yeah, I mean, I had a I've when the online game came out, and then they released those books, that like really reignited me, and so I dove in. So like I'll never finish Legends. I've read like 138 Legends books, and I'll slowly get more from time to time, but like the old, there's some weird stuff in there. Some of them are really good.
Yeah.
Some of them are.
Well,
some of them have Palpatine's 3-eyed son Triclops in them. So
they had that giant rabbit too.
Yeah.
Well, leave him out of this. Giant rabbits are great.
That's true. But
they're canon now, and he's amazing.
One of my previous jobs, I drove truck in Manhattan, and we delivered to all the print houses, and they would give us, this is how old it was, they would give us free books and free books on tape. It was still like cassette tapes. And so I remember listening to what's the one where they try to rescue Han? They made a whole Shadow of the Empire. Yeah. I had Shadow of the Empire on tape, and I would listen to it in my truck. Which that one I didn't mind, but then I had an advanced reader copy that had like the notes written in it for Dark Saber or something like that. The I don't know, it was like
where the Hut Cartel had the thing,
and I lost interest in that when they were talking about the mining malfunction. I was like, this sounds like it sounds like there's going to be a quiz after this. I don't want, Oh, I forgot I put us on Facebook Live, and James Welch chimed in and said Marty is the best Wookiee. So
he's great. I still remember I had him because I'm an RA in my dorm building, so I do Star Wars movie nights every week. And last semester we watched Solo, and that was our last movie we were watching. It was towards the end of the semester, and I had Marty come in as Chewie.
Oh, these kids lost.
People were screaming in delight and a little bit of terror, I think.
And then we were. So I don't know if you're familiar. Temple's in downtown Philly. So then me and Marty went walking around, and I was in a Han-like jacket, and Marty was in Chewie. We were walking down the middle of campus. People were just coming out taking pictures, like it was.
Man, I really need to see this Chewie costume.
No, I'm telling you, if you look on my TikTok, the Chewie on there, I think it's pinned. And actually that's one of his previous masks. I think his new mask is better because he made a new mask. But any of the
I can
Chewy
never tell
pictures,
the difference.
yeah, I know.
He's always like,
Any
this
of the
one's so
Chewy
much
pictures.
better, and I'm sure it is, but it looks the same to me.
Well, now we have a friend that does C3PO, and his C3PO is spot on too. Um, so that's who helped me build 000. I got to make a TikTok of putting Sappy in it, but it takes 45 minutes to bolt her in the suit. So.
I believe it. I believe it. Yeah, so I'm definitely gonna reach out to your friend because I also need to find out. I'm sure he has certain ways of keeping himself cooler than normal in the suit.
Yeah,
And
well, it's his suit. Honestly, like his legs are like chaps. He wears them. They're hooked up, and then the suit just hangs down, so you get a little bit of airflow. But see, it's pretty neat to watch him suit up. But yeah, Marty Miller, just write it down. I don't know, someone your age might not be on Facebook, but he's on Facebook. Um, and he's all his costume is top notch. And he helps. Like I said, it's not a too difficult of a costume. Once if you don't mind putting the time in, it's like I always tell people, almost all costume is one of three things: time, money, and skill. And you just have to kind of balance which you have more of at the time, because no one seems to have all of it at the same time.
nope, not even
So,
close.
but the time, like a lot of it's just time. I mean, Zoe Sabine armor, this not now, not the soft parts, but just the armor itself. I could do a whole Sabine. It costs about $9 to make Sabine armor because it's 3 millimeter expanded plastic. You cut out a pattern, and I use soup cans, and I roll it with a soup can and get the right shape. So,
Dang.
and
All
her
right.
and her Sabine's pretty decent. Like, and a stormtrooper, like, well, even above me, that's Ketsu helmet. That was a spool and a half of filament, so less than $20 to print.
You mean Fennec?
Fennec, sorry, what did I say?
Katsu.
You said Ketsu,
It's
but
one of
Oh,
those too.
I have a Ketsu helmet too. We did Ketsu, but that was my first like true costume to do after Sabine. I did a Tuscan too. I have a Tuscan. We did a Tuscan for about $75. So Tuscan's
yeah.
another one. We're gonna do a tribe of Tuscans this summer. So a bunch of us are gonna get together and spend a day and a half here at my house, and we're just gonna start from beginning to end. So we all have. There's 34 people that say they're gonna show up, which probably means about 16. So then we can have 16 Tuscans built in one day. Have a whole tribe, and then just shoot some fan films and stuff. So you're in a perfect spot.
That's
There's
cool.
fan films coming out all over the place in California.
And the quality is so good.
Mm-hmm.
God, when I did the fan film episode of my podcast, I hadn't actually watched a fan film in years, and I just remembered how they were, and these was like the production quality and stuff is insane.
Well,
We're just
yeah. Well, the guy we did a fan film with, he came down from Jersey in March. He does the Solo Chronicles set of fan films, and he's starting to do them again. And a lot of those guys work in the industry. Him and his friends are cameramen, and they do this as fun. So they came down with like carloads of equipment and everything, and we shot for a day, and then we have to do one more day of shooting. Um, and then the troops is what got me hooked. So,
mhm.
and I think you guys talked about that on your
Yeah.
show. Yeah. Now, I don't know if I mentioned it on your show or someone else's. The one stormtrooper was wearing those big stiletto heels. The one stormtrooper on that is a woman, and she has probably 6-inch stiletto heels, high heel boots on. And I don't know if you noticed that or not.
I actually didn't notice that. No.
Yeah, the one's a woman, and because when I watched Troops, I saw it back when the internet where you would have to load it, and it was a little square about this big.
Yeah.
And then there was a magazine called DVD Magazine. I forget what year it came out with, but it came with a DVD inside, and one of the features was Troops, which I don't know how they got around the copyright on that and trademark and all, but it was on the DVD. So I have Troops on DVD, one of their first, you know.
That's cool.
And then they made a whole series. That same guy made one called Imps. Have you ever watched those?
No,
So
no, I haven't.
he made imps, and it's like it's a big battalion of stormtroopers, and it's kind of along the same lines as troops, but a little less copy. It's more fan filming. So Zoe's gonna make some fan films, but she's too busy doing school. She'll be out in your neck of the woods next fall for her last semester.
And what are you going to school for?
I'm a film student, so I'm doing a study way in Los Angeles.
Nice.
I'm telling you,
Yeah, lots
right?
of. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say you have to watch our Star Wars story. That's the reaction. That's the Choco reaction video that I would love to see.
I
She's
will
embarrassed
definitely
of
be
it
checking it out.
because they did 2 seasons, and she got season 2, episode 2, and we lucked out because they came right before COVID hit. So after her episode, the rest of the episodes, I think one episode after yours, but after that, they
No, I
had to
don't think
do
so because COVID hit the week after ours.
right. But I think they filmed Jason's after yours. Remember they
No,
filmed
they filmed his
Jason.
right before. They were coming from filming his.
Right, they filmed his, but it was released after yours.
Yes.
But all the ones after that had to be done remotely. But so it's good. Though Lucasfilm does tell they when they showed up to our house, I was picturing like Jordan Hembrow and a guy with a camcorder, and they showed up with what 4 cameramen, a soundman, and 2 execs from Lucasfilm. And they said, "Excuse me, can you move everything out of your house?" And then I was wearing a Star Wars shirt, but it was like this is a bootleg shirt. I was wearing a bootleg shirt, and the one exec said, "You can't wear that shirt tomorrow. You make sure it's a licensed Lucasfilm shirt." So I was like, "Okay,
Makes sense, though.
yeah, oh yeah." No, they were good. It was a fun time. It was you know all the stuff like with when you join the 501st, the opportunities you get to do just little silly things like the parades we've got to march in, and stuff like that. I got to work the line for Anthony Daniels, so I got to stand there for like 2 hours and watch him sign people's autographs and stuff, which was really cool. You know,
And that's what's been. That's one thing I find that's really cool because once I heard like Pablo Hidalgo's story of how he got into Lucasfilm, of
yep,
just being a big fan, essentially. And someone's like, "Hey, we know you have done a lot for your own D&D campaigns. This guy is making a Star Wars encyclopedia," and he's like, "Well, I have my own right here."
yeah,
That's super cool. And just from making these TikToks and stuff, um they send me copies of books and stuff before they come out now for reviews, and we've gotten to interview and meet some of the writers and stuff like that, and it's cool. We're in this weird age of, I don't know, it's just fun. I
well, it's
appreciate
good
this.
though. It's great because before you could you didn't no one could recognize you. Everyone has a platform now, to do with it as you please. Um, yeah, well, Justin Bolger, have you ever heard of him?
Yeah.
So he works for Lucasfilm. When I started listening to podcasts a long time ago, he was just a podcaster. He was just like a, old timey podcaster guy. And then he works. I don't know what he does for Lucasfilm, but I remember when he got his job for Lucasfilm because he left his one podcast. I was like, oh, no more Justin Bolger. So
That's the dream.
yeah, well,
that's why we're here.
well, I have the dream for my kid. I don't think they want some old guy. So unless they want some props built, then I can go build some props for them. But I did get to do Galactic Empire stuff, so I can't complain about that. And Zoe's on the internship hunt. So that's the. But she does have in our Star Wars stories they give her PA credit because she helped set up the cameras.
Oh, nice.
So she actually, at least for one day, worked for Lucasfilm.
Yeah, I have from certain podcasts. I have an IMDb page and stuff.
Nice.
So that's cool. Making little waves, but yeah, we'll see how far we can go.
Well, it is nice how podcasting has evolved with TikTok and stuff like that. Because again, it was when we started. Like I have all this equipment in here. This is like a whole podcasting room. I don't even need 90% of this anymore because just with the innovation that came about, partially due to the pandemic, it made it so much easier and less steps.
Yeah.
So. All right, Zoe, should we wrap it up?
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Well, wait a minute. We should. Well, we do we. I don't have any. I don't have any plugs, but you guys definitely. You
No,
two should
yeah,
do
no,
plugs.
you have plugs. You have your TikTok.
Well, and then you'll have to message me all your plugs too, Choco. So I'll put them in the show notes on her show too.
Oh, okay.
Right. But Darth Choco, where can we find you? You said in the beginning of the episode, but you can say it again.
Yeah. So I'm Darth Choco on most places. So Darth Choco on TikTok, which is my primary platform right now. I'm all darth.choco on Instagram. Darth Choco on YouTube. I'm doing a lot more content there. I also have a podcast called the High Ground Podcast. It's a lot of fun. Basically, I pick a random topic and have a bunch of people on that know that topic well. The last one, I had a bunch of people who were like history majors and like and lawyers and stuff like that on, and we just talked about historic parallels. This upcoming week, because it's Black History Month, I'm going to have a whole panel of Black nerds. It's going to be a great time. So that is on my YouTube channel and anywhere where podcasts can be found. That's the High Ground Podcast. And yeah, that's where you can find me.
All right. Thank you again so much for being on the show. It's late on a Friday night, so I wasn't super energetic, but it was really fun talking to you. You can find Star Wars Geek Girl on Twitter and Instagram at SWGeekGirl. The website is starwarsgeekgirl.com. I do book reviews Mondays, quizzes on Wednesdays, and just random blog articles on Fridays. And you obviously know where to listen to the podcast if you're hearing this, so that's about it. And you can find my dad on TikTok at
I forget. I had to
Hinton
change.
Star Wars Family.
Yeah.
You keep changing your TikTok, and
I didn't like the word. I didn't like the word cosplay, so I had to take that.
Hinton. Is it Hinton Star Wars Family? Is that what it is?
Hinton Star Wars Family, yes.
Okay.
And Mike Hinton on any other thing. I don't have any fancy name.
Okay. So thank you guys both so much for being on the show. Thank you for listening, everyone that's listening. I was Zoe.
Oh, I was Mike.
I was Choco.
May the force be with you, and goodbye.
All right. I ended the stream according to this.
And still says we're live.
Star Wars Geek Girls. They're geek girls that like Star Wars. And sometimes cry.